Hello and welcome to Take 6. I'm streaming executive producer Thomas Mates. Julie Broughton is off this week, and we hope she is off enjoying herself and having a nice relaxing time. This week we have a special series of shows for you. From today through Thursday, we are going to be showing a special series that News 6 investigator Mike DeForest has been working on, all surrounding the Madeline Soto case and the investigation into her death. Right now I'm going to have Mike join us on camera right here, and he is going to talk to us a little bit about this series before we get into it. Mike, how are you doing today?
Doing good, and appreciate you letting us talk about this here today, Thomas. Yeah, it's been a little bit more than 6 months now since 13-year-old Madeline Soto disappeared. Later, authorities found she had been strangled to death. Her mom's boyfriend, Stephen Stearns, has been charged with that crime and is awaiting trial. When this all first happened, especially in those early days of the disappearance, I think the community was very invested in what had happened, and we had a lot of questions. And slowly over the last 6 months or so, we've been getting bits and pieces of what law enforcement and prosecutors say was kind of the story of what had happened. And so we wanted to kind of take a step back here. And once we started seeing all of this, which has come primarily through court records, put it together in kind of an understandable timeline, and I think see the big picture of what allegedly happened. And I use the word allegedly because, again, Stephen Stearns has pleaded not guilty to all of the charges against him. Under the law, he is entitled to a presumption of innocence, and we will wait to see what happens in the court case. But we are now starting to see glimmers of what the evidence that prosecutors might have, and we wanted to be able to present that to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mike, before we get into the piece, which is a longer piece, and all these pieces are about 6 minutes or so long, except for the last one, which is a little bit longer. This has been a real undertaking for you and your photographer, investigative photographer, Anthony Murdoch. We got a large a cache of this discovery, this evidence that prosecutors and investigators have been pulling together against Stephen Stearns for about 2 weeks ago. And since that time, you've been working virtually nonstop to get this all together.
Yeah, just a little backtrack. Under Florida public record law, when prosecutors hand over what's called discovery evidence to a defendant, basically, so during a criminal case, a defendant, there's no surprises is what's coming in court. The moment that prosecutors hand that over to the defendant, it becomes public record for everybody to see. And so we've been getting it in batches. We'd get a police report here, a couple audio clips there, and so over the last 2 weeks or so, we had gotten a big batch of this evidence. And to just look at it, you really needed to put it into a understandable timeline, and so that's what I and my photographer, Anthony Murdoch, have been doing here, and putting together this series. We're just kind of finally, for the first time, we're able to see from beginning to end how this case unfolded.
Yeah, and this has included everything, like you said, from police reports to crime scene photos and body camera video and just a mountain of documents and computer files, correct?
And I think that once you start to put it in the correct chronological order and kind of see where prosecutors are going with where their case may go, should this case go to trial, it's definitely interesting. It's also heartbreaking. And again, we're talking about the sexual molestation and murder of a 13-year-old, and we don't want to make any light of this. But I think this, from the beginning, had really gripped the community who were worried about her and now want to see justice take place.
Absolutely. So why don't we take a look at the piece? I think they very much speak for themselves. I'll be honest, I haven't watched the entirety of them yet. I've seen little clips and bits as you and Anthony were editing these, but I wanted to experience this for the first time along with all of our viewers so we could have a genuine reaction to all this. And like we said, this is very tragic events and very sad events, and it's certainly may be disturbing to some viewers, so some discretion is advised. But without further ado, why don't we take a look at your first piece, and then we'll kind of explain more of that and then what's coming next in the series.
Hello, Orange County Sheriff's Office.
Deputies go door to door in search of missing 13-year-old Madeline Soto.
Hi, have you seen this child? No.
She's been missing yesterday since 8:30 a.m. in the morning.
I have not seen her.
Less than a week later, authorities found Soto's body in these woods just outside St. Cloud. Investigators say the 13-year-old had been sexually molested and then strangled to death by her mother's boyfriend, Stephen Stearns.
In this video series, we'll show you how law enforcement investigated the teenager's disappearance, and you'll see what prosecutors are doing to seek justice for Madeline.
Do you need police, fire, or medical?
Police, possibly. I'm reporting a missing child.
On February 26, deputies were called to this office near Soto's school where a relative happens to work.
Hey there.
Hey there. What's going on?
So my daughter was dropped off close to school this morning, but never made it.
Here they met Soto's mother, Jennifer, and Jennifer's boyfriend, Stephen Stearns.
Didn't make it to school.
Didn't make it to school. I went to pick her up from school today,
Okay.
and she never came out. I got an email from the school saying she was absent, but I also messaged her teacher, and he looked at her entire attendance today and saw that she was completely not at school today either.
Okay.
So she never made it.
The couple told deputies what Madeline had been wearing.
Green hoodie,
Green hoodie.
white Crocs,
White Crocs.
either blue or black pants.
I think black shorts.
Black shorts.
Yeah.
Black shorts? Okay. And when was the last time you seen her? Do you know around what time?
Around 8:30, 8:40 when we dropped her off.
Although you heard Stearns say we dropped her off, he and Jennifer Soto later told investigators that Stearns was by himself when he brought Madeline to school. Stearns says the 13-year-old was embarrassed of his car and wanted to be dropped off right here, a few blocks away from Hunters Creek Middle School and right across the street from a church.
So it's like around where these communities were,
Okay.
and it's just like in this strip.
That night, Stearns showed deputies the spot where he says Madeline got out of his car, a silver Lincoln MKZ.
When I left her, she was on the other side of the street, rummaging through her backpack and just kind of moving towards the school area, so it looked normal.
It's going to be hard to tell whether she went left or right.
A sheriff's K9 was brought out and given some of Madeline's clothing to sniff in hopes of tracking where she might have gone.
I don't know if she was trying to walk back home on her own or if she was trying to go to her friend's house.
But after 15 minutes of searching, the K9 was unable to pick up Madeline's scent.
So weird. I'm gonna find people, bro. It's your job. Literally your only job. Finding people.
At the nearby church, a deputy viewed surveillance video that showed a girl being dropped off that morning.
Wait, there's
a person
getting out of the car.
Due to privacy laws, authorities have put a black box over the computer monitor so we cannot see the video ourselves. But detectives later showed it to Madeline's mother, Jennifer Soto.
I mean, the quality's terrible.
She could not say whether the video showed her daughter or Stearns' silver Lincoln.
Does that look familiar at all?
No,
You wouldn't know that anywhere?
I don't know that part.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Detectives questioned Madeline's friends at Hunters Creek Middle School.
She had never told me about anything about her running away other than her saying if she were to run away, she'd go into the woods.
But they did not know where the 13-year-old might be.
What can I do for you?
We're here regarding a missing juvenile. She's been missing since a missing juvenile.
Deputies canvassing nearby neighborhoods could not find any witnesses.
Hello, have you seen this girl?
No.
Madeline celebrated her 13th birthday with relatives the night before she vanished. Her mom, Jennifer, was at work and did not attend the party, but says she caught up with Madeline at the condo they shared with Stearns.
So you last saw her Sunday night about what time?
I would say 11 p.m. before she went to bed.
And you were here at home? Gotcha. And where did she go to bed? Was she in her room, your room, or something else?
We were all going to sleep together in the same bed, but I needed some good sleep. I got a new job recently. I haven't been well rested. I needed some sleep. So I asked, hey, can you guys go to the guest bedroom upstairs?
These crime scene photos show that guest bedroom, which has one bed in the corner and locks on the door. Stearns told police he and Madeline went to sleep here and then got up early the next morning for school.
Woke up around 7:15, somewhere around there, which is an early start for us, but we had talked about getting McDonald's breakfast beforehand, so we wanted to make good time. We did make good time. We got out the door maybe 7:30ish, 7:45ish, maybe. Got over to that area. She was asleep in the car most of the time, just snoozing until we got there.
When they got to this McDonald's, Stearns told detectives that Madeline was no longer hungry. So he says he continued down the road to Hunters Creek Middle School, about a mile away from here. After dropping Madeline off at school, Stearns says he went to a vape shop across town and then back to the condo. Next on Justice for Madeline, we'll take you room by room inside that condo. You'll hear Jennifer Soto describe her family's sleeping arrangements, and we'll show you why detectives believe someone was secretly taking photographs underneath one of the bedroom doors.
Mike, that's some incredible stuff that you got there.
Well, and what I found interesting about this, again, is we kind of all, those of us who were following this case in the very early days when Madeline was reported missing, and law enforcement was initially out there looking for her. They had not quite honed in on what they now describe as inconsistent statements made by the mother's boyfriend, Stephen Stearns. At that point, with a 13-year-old, they were open to the possibility that she was a runaway or was hiding from family. And so for the first time, we're really seeing those efforts that law enforcement made. You saw deputies, and we saw several deputies, at least 6 or 8, who were just going door to door in the apartment complexes and neighborhoods near the school and the condo complex where Madeline lived with her mother, just trying to get someone to say, hey, yeah, I saw her go here, or I know where she might be. Interestingly, too, we were seeing that the video from the police canine handler, who seemed to be playfully frustrated at her canine because the canine was not picking up any scent. Well, based on what prosecutors are outlining now, it's because they believe Madeline was never there where Stephen Stearns says she dropped off. So now in hindsight, when you see this dog not picking up a scent, well, that may allegedly be why. But kind of taking that step back now, we can see the efforts that law enforcement made, and it was just over the course of maybe 48 hours, they were able to use some law enforcement techniques and other to try to understand Stephen Stearns and verify his whereabouts. And as we explore in future episodes of this video series, his story was not adding up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, virtually every person in this newsroom has had some hand in our coverage of this story, and we are all, paying attention very closely. And when it started coming out that there appeared to be, according to investigators, some inconsistency in Stephen Stearns' stories, and the investigative eye turned towards him. It was very vague at first that they started finding, potentially child sex abuse material on his phone, and then as things developed further, we were still waiting to learn how that might be connected to Madeline and her disappearance at the time.
Well, and I think, too, what we're seeing this, and we don't know what Stephen Stearns' defense will be if he puts on one, but we can see some of the threads of where a defense attorney could potentially go. For example, there were those witnesses at the church who had that surveillance video, and we had heard about this very early on, that there was this surveillance video, and we're now able to see that it did, in fact, exist of what appeared to be a girl getting out of a car in that area. But then we have Madeline Soto's mother saying, no, that's not my daughter, and that's not my car. At least I don't recognize it, in what she acknowledged was a very poor quality video. And you can hear the law enforcement talking about the quality of the video is very poor. We had also heard early on the potential of Madeline being a runaway, and may have mentioned to some friends that she would run away to the woods. And I think in that interview with one of those friends, and they interviewed several students at the school there and several teachers and other educators. And I think the takeaway from that was that there wasn't ever a definitive plan that Madeline was going to run away. She may have just, being a 13-year-old, mentioned that, hey, if I did run away, this is where I might be. So we see the nuance in that. That was something, again, we heard very early on in this disappearance. Was she a runaway? And now we're getting to hear what those witnesses were telling law enforcement, which shaped the direction of law enforcement's investigation.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming up in the next episode, I know you're taking a closer look at Madeline Soto and her family's home, their condominium that they all live together in. And, you had kind of made the point earlier that it was part of this whole process for you was like creating the context, because we get all this evidence and there are photos, and just seeing a photo in isolation, there's not a lot of context with it, but you were able to piece it all together between that and all the other documents that we have to create this sort of timeline of events and this overall look at the investigation to give that broader context of how this all fits together.
That's right. In our next episode, they're crime scene photos. Now, they're not gruesome crime scene photos by any means. They're just photos that crime scene investigators took inside Madeline Soto's apartment. But I think for those who, again, the community that has genuinely cared about this, I think you get the opportunity to kind of see the layout now with your own eyes, and where Madeline's bedroom was and where the mother's bedroom was and where now authorities believe that crime took place. So I think it just brings a new layer to this when you can actually see what we've up until now only been reading in these police reports and hearing from law enforcement as they described, again, in the initial days of this, what they were learning as their investigation proceeded.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, it is all just such an unusual turn of events. Everything that led up to it is as we're seeing in the investigation. And then, of course, the events thereafter, her disappearance and, as we ultimately know, her death. Just it's from what I've seen, you've been able to kind of capture just sort of the dynamics of what was happening between the accused killer and the victim and everything that sort of came together as this case progressed.
Right, early on, and this is the case with any type of police investigation that we in a news organization would cover, is the initial story we hear is the law enforcement's summary of it. In this case in particular, they had press conferences, and Orange County Sheriff or the Kissimmee Police Chief would very, very briefly stand at a podium and summarize the evidence that they had gathered. Well, this is our first chance to really go in depth, and we had hours and hours of these audio recordings with Madeline Soto's mother, with Stephen Stearns. In one of the latter episodes, you're going to hear a very lengthy interview with Stephen Stearns' father and his perspective on all this. And we heard from the friends and the law enforcement officers. So we were now able to get a much more in-depth sense of how this investigation proceeded. We certainly aren't going to put hours and hours and hours of those audio recordings online for you, but we wanted to be able to kind of summarize it and put it into a timeline to finally start putting this into perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that there is potentially other evidence out there. And so as more of that comes in, this is going to be an ongoing process for us as a newsroom, but for you specifically as one of our News 6 investigators. We've certainly talked about potentially expanding upon this as more information comes available. But for right now, we've got 4 parts of this series at the moment, at least. And the next episode, as you said, is, coming up. We're looking at Madeline's living conditions. And then could you give us a little tease ahead to some of the other episodes, the 2 other episodes beyond that?
So, yeah, well, in the next episode, we'll be talking about the apartment and the condo and the living arrangements, and we get into, in that discussion, the final moments of Madeline's known life, mostly through the eyewitness accounts of her mother, Jennifer, who says that the last time she actually saw her daughter was when she put her to bed the night before Madeline vanished. The next episode after that, while this missing child investigation was underway, the home, in essence, became a crime scene, so law enforcement could get in there and examine evidence and take photographs, which left Jennifer Soto, the mother, and her boyfriend, Stephen Stearns, in essence, temporarily homeless. So they went to go stay at a hotel, and we're going to reveal some rather bizarre details in the 3rd episode, that in the early morning hours, Stephen Stearns allegedly snuck out of that hotel and made a 300-mile round-trip drive to Southwest Florida. And we'll get into the details about why law enforcement think he made that trip. And then finally, our 4th part that we've put together on this, we look at the timeline of the day that Madeline Soto vanished and Stephen Stearns' account of what happened. And then we hold it side by side with what law enforcement says happened based on the evidence that they have collected in this case, such as license plate readers and traffic cameras. And so Stephen Stearns will say, well, I drove to this location, and law enforcement go, yeah, but we've got video and recordings of you in this location. Help explain that for us. And it was ultimately through law enforcement piecing together the movements of Stephen Stern's car using this technology, that they were able to pinpoint the rough area where Madeline's body might be, and then due to a witness who happened to see one of those police press conferences, was able to provide some helpful information that ultimately cracked the case and helped them locate Madeline's body, sadly.
Yes. So, like I said at the beginning of all this, for the rest of this week, through Thursday at least, we're going to be airing each of these episodes in their entirety for our viewers to see. You can also find them right now on clickorlando.com. You can go to clickorlando.com/investigators, and you can see this first episode in its entirety again. But if you cannot wait day in, day out for these new episodes to drop, we have posted them all. Right now, they're available on YouTube in their entirety. There's a playlist for them. If you just go to the Click Orlando or News 6 and clickorlando.com YouTube page is right here, Justice for Madeline, under playlists. You can see every single episode from start to finish, and we hope that you'll check them out and see all of this work that Mike and his photographer have put into this. And of course, we're going to continue following this case, and I know, Mike, you're going to be following this very closely as things unfold even further. What, just for all our edification, what's going to be sort of the next step in all this as we get closer to trial?
I believe we're going to continue to see prosecutors share evidence with the defendant, again, who's pleaded not guilty, and then we just wait to see what happens in the court case. Whether we don't know in this specific case what's going to happen, but the options that in general can happen are that a defendant agrees to a plea deal or wants to go to trial. Under the Constitution, he has a right to take this to trial and be judged by a jury of his peers, and that could potentially be the next step, which can potentially be months and months, if not years away. So this could go on for a while, and this is really just kind of the beginning stages of this, but we wanted to catch people up now that we're finally getting to see the big picture of what allegedly happened.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, it's been 6 months of following this story closely, and as you said, it could be several months more or potentially even longer, and we'll continue to follow it, and I know you're going to be staying on top of it. So I appreciate your time today. I'll let you go for right now, but we will see you again tomorrow for part 2 of Justice for Madeline. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for your help, Thomas.
Of course, anytime. All right, before we let you go today, we're going to get a quick check on your weather. It is going to be a very typical Florida week here, especially this time of year. So all week long, we're going to be looking at highs in the upper 80s to low 90s with high humidity and high rain chances, 60 to 70%, 50% on the weekends. We're going to see a slight drop there. Of course, our News 6 Pinpoint Weather team is keeping a close eye on the tropics. There are several waves and systems that we are keeping a close eye on. At this moment, we have no tropical threats to Florida or Central Florida, but it's always important for us to keep our tabs on them as we near the peak of hurricane season tomorrow. Thank you again so much for joining us here on Take 6. We'll be back again, News 6 at 4. Our whole team will be out with providing news, weather, traffic, everything that you need to finish off your day. Of course, our Pinpoint Weather team will be back to give you a more complete forecast, including all the tabs on the tropics and everything we're keeping an eye on out there. We really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and have a pleasant day.